All right, so today we are diving deep
Deep.
into David Goggins' Can't Hurt Me,
Oh, yeah.
and we're going to be extracting, I
Yeah,
think, the most powerful takeaways from it.
for sure.
The stuff that, you can actually use to, like, level up your life.
Absolutely.
And if you're not familiar with Goggins,
Yeah.
just the real quick version.
Okay.
He went from a seriously abusive childhood to becoming a Navy SEAL,
Wow.
an ultra-marathon runner.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not just about, like, the physical feats, right?
Right.
It's the mindset.
Yeah, the mindset is key.
So,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
let's get into the good stuff.
Let's do it.
His childhood, man.
Oh.
Brutal.
Yeah, it's like a textbook case of how not to raise a kid.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
His dad, Trunnis,
Trunnis.
it sounds like just a real piece of work.
A real piece of work.
I mean, bringing prostitutes home while the family's there?
I mean, that's just, like, messed up.
Yeah, that's messy.
On so many levels.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
And that constant exposure to violence and fear,
Right.
it basically became Goggins' twisted training ground.
Like a twisted training ground.
Your mental toughness.
It's crazy, yeah.
There's that one story, right?
Yeah.
Where young Goggins finally stands up to his dad
Yeah.
after witnessing him abuse his mother.
Oh, yeah, that's a powerful story.
And Trinus, of course, goes ballistic.
Of course.
But it's almost like that act of defiance
Right.
ignited something in Goggins.
So he realized
Like a spark.
he didn't have to be a victim,
Yes.
even in the face of overwhelming power,
Mm-hmm.
he had a choice.
He had a choice.
He had agency.
So, okay,
Yeah.
we've got this horrific childhood,
Right.
but then Goggins decides to join the Air Force.
The Air Force, huh?
Seems like a chance to escape
Yes,
her.
yeah, a chance for a fresh start.
But then he gets discharged for being overweight.
Oh, wow.
Talk about a blow.
A major setback.
Imagine having this dream
Yeah.
and then failing.
Yeah.
Because of something you felt like you could control.
Yeah, you could control.
This failure
Right.
becomes a pivotal moment for him.
It's a turning point.
This is where Goggins stumbles upon
Mm-hmm.
what he calls the 40% rule.
The 40% rule.
Okay, I am hooked.
Okay.
Tell me more about this 40% rule.
All right, so the 40% rule.
How did he even figure this out?
So Goggins realized that most people, when
Uh-huh.
they think they've hit their absolute limit,
Right.
they've actually only tapped into about 40%
Oh,
of their true effort.
Hold on. You're saying we've got, like,
A hidden reserve
a hidden reserve
of 60%
just waiting to be unleashed?
just waiting to be unleashed.
Absolutely.
Ooh.
It's about recognizing that our minds often give up way before our bodies do.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Think about that presentation you're dreading, right?
Ugh.
You might be psyching yourself out,
No.
convinced you'll bomb,
Mm-hmm.
but what if you applied the 40% rule?
You're likely capable of way more
More.
than you think.
That's a serious game changer.
It is?
Oh my gosh, I'm already thinking about all the things I've talked myself out of.
Exactly.
Wow.
And this concept applies to everything.
Right.
It's not just work stuff.
Not just work.
It's about rewiring your thinking to understand that you're capable of so much more
Right.
than you believe.
So failure becomes fuel.
Failure becomes fuel.
But it wasn't just the Air Force, right?
Right.
Didn't Goggins try out for the Navy SEALs?
Yeah, he did.
Like a bunch of times.
Multiple times.
Multiple times.
And we're not talking about your average boot camp.
Oh, no.
He had to go through Hell Week
Hell Week.
several times,
Roll.
which is basically designed to break you.
Yeah, to break you.
Physically and mentally.
And somehow,
Yeah.
he not only survives this,
Yeah.
but thrives.
He thrives in it.
This is where we start to see
We start to see
that calloused mind
that calloused mind.
in action.
Exactly. Goggins didn't develop this mental toughness overnight.
Right.
It was earned
Earned.
through constantly choosing discomfort,
Okay.
facing his fears,
Okay.
and proving to himself that he could handle more.
He's got this intense phrase, right?
Oh, yeah.
Taking souls.
Taking souls.
Can you explain that?
I mean, it sounds kind of,
Well, it's intense.
it is intense.
Yeah.
So Goggins developed this mentality
Okay.
during SEAL training.
Field training.
It's about outlasting your opponents,
Right?
breaking their will
Wow.
through sheer determination.
Do you think this taking souls mentality
Right.
could be detrimental
Oh, interesting.
in some situations?
Yeah, for sure.
Like maybe not the best approach
Right.
for a team project at work.
Probably not the best approach for a team project.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a strategy
Okay.
best suited for, like, specific high-stakes situations.
Yeah.
But there's a kernel of truth in it
Yeah.
that we can all learn.
Okay.
Sure.
All right. So how does this taking souls thing
Okay.
actually play out?
Let me give you a real-world example.
Give me an example.
Okay, so there's this story where Goggins describes outlasting an instructor,
Right.
nicknamed Psycho,
Psycho.
during a brutal beach run.
Oh.
He refused to let Psycho break him,
Wow.
mimicking the instructor's every move until Psycho himself gave up.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow. Talk about a power move.
A serious power move.
It's not just physical.
Right.
It's mental.
Mental game.
This makes you wonder, though, right?
Yeah.
Where does he draw
Yeah, where does he
his strength from?
draw that strength from?
Where does it come from?
That's where his past trauma comes into play.
Okay.
Goggins talks about harnessing his darkness, using his past pain as fuel to drive him forward.
And this is where he introduces the cookie jar, right?
Yes. The cookie jar.
The cookie jar.
So picture this, right?
Okay.
You have a jar.
Filled with your biggest wins,
Biggest wins.
your moments of triumph,
Mm-hmm.
when self-doubt creeps in.
Yeah, when self-doubt creeps in.
You reach in,
Okay.
pull out a memory.
Pull out a memory.
Bam.
Yeah.
Instant confidence boost.
Okay.
That's the cookie jar.
So instead of dwelling on the negative,
Right.
you're actively choosing
Actively choose.
to focus on the positive.
On the positive.
It's like building a mental arsenal
a mental arsenal, yeah.
to combat
those
those negative voices.
that tell us we can't.
We can't do something.
Exactly.
That's a good one.
Yeah, think about it.
I'm going to need a pretty big jar.
You might.
Yeah. So we've got this foundation of mental toughness.
That's foundation.
But then Goggins takes it.
He takes it to a whole other level.
Another level.
He gets into ultra running.
Ultra running.
And not just like casually jogging a few miles.
Oh, no.
We're talking 100-mile races.
100-mile races.
His entry into ultra running is fascinating.
Fascinating.
Because it was almost accidental.
Accident.
He had no experience.
Nope.
No real training plan.
No plan.
And yet,
he
signs up for a 100-mile race.
He just goes for it.
The San Diego one day.
The San Diego one day? Yeah.
With like 3 days notice.
3 days notice.
No training plan, just boom.
100-mile race.
100 miles.
Talk about jumping in the deep end.
That's Goggins.
Isn't that reckless?
I mean, some might say it's reckless,
Yeah.
but it's not as reckless as it seems.
Okay.
He was actually putting his 40% rule to the ultimate test.
The ultimate test.
He believed he could do it,
Okay.
even if everyone else,
Yeah.
including experienced runners,
Right.
thought he was crazy.
You've always seen.
Absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
But he believed in himself.
He believed in himself.
And in his 40% rule.
In the 40% rule.
Yeah. And he finished that race.
He did, proving to himself
Wow.
and everyone else that the 40% rule is a real thing.
5th place, right?
5th place.
With basically zero training.
Basically zero training.
That's wild.
It's incredible.
That's incredible.
And it solidified his belief that he could endure way more than he initially thought possible.
Yeah. But surely even Goggins hits a wall sometime.
He does.
Right.
He does. He talks about the Hurt 100,
Okay.
which is considered one of the toughest trail races in the world.
Okay.
That race really humbled him.
What happened?
He went in underprepared.
Did he not finish?
He finished.
No, we finished.
But it was brutal.
Okay.
He paid the price.
So even with a calloused mind,
Right.
you can't just bulldoze your way through everything.
Not everything.
Right.
It highlighted the importance of research, planning,
Okay.
knowing your limits.
So preparation matters.
Preparation matters.
Even for Goggins.
Even for Goggins.
But I guess the key is that he learns from those experiences.
He learns from them.
He doesn't let them defeat him.
Right. He took those lessons
Yeah.
and applied them to his next challenge.
Which was?
The Badwater 135.
Badwater 135.
This one's insane.
Okay.
Running 135 miles.
135 miles.
Through Death Valley.
Oh, God.
In the peak of summer.
I'm getting heat stroke just thinking about it.
Yeah.
So how did he approach this one differently?
He was meticulous.
Meticulous.
He studied the course, researched the conditions,
wow,
and tailored his training specifically for that race.
He was ready.
He was ready.
And that's how he achieves.
That's how he achieved.
These seemingly impossible feats.
These seemingly impossible feats.
But it's not just about physical accomplishments, right?
Right.
He's also all about self-reflection.
Self-reflection.
And finding purpose.
Absolutely. He talks about a moment of realization.
Okay.
Where he recognizes that he's been running from his past.
That's
trying to bury those demons under physical achievements.
So what was the turning point for him?
It was a heartbreaking moment.
Okay.
He lost a close friend.
A friend.
And fellow SEAL.
Oh, wow.
And it forced him to confront his own mortality.
His own mortality.
And the fragility of life.
So tragedy became a catalyst for growth.
Exactly. He realized that he needed to do more with his life.
More with his life.
Than just rack up accomplishments.
Okay.
He decided to start running for a cause.
For a cause.
To honor his fallen comrade.
Wow.
And support their families.
That's when he found. His deeper purpose.
His deeper purpose.
That adds a whole new layer.
A whole new layer.
To his journey.
It's not just about him anymore.
Yeah.
It's about something bigger than himself.
Bigger than himself.
It's about using his platform to make a difference.
To make a difference.
And that shift in perspective fueled him even more.
Fueled him.
He was carrying the weight of something much bigger now.
I remember reading about his heart surgeries.
Oh, yeah.
That must have been incredibly challenging.
Incredibly challenging.
Both physically and mentally.
He had 2 separate surgeries to repair a hole in his heart. Imagine going through that and then having to relearn how to run.
I would just want to curl up on the couch and watch TV.
But that's not Goggins.
Not Goggins.
He used those setbacks as opportunities for growth.
Opportunities.
He would ask himself, what if I can come back stronger than before?
What if?
That question became his driving force.
That's where the power of what if comes into play.
The power of what if.
It's not just about accepting your circumstances.
Right.
It's about challenging them.
Challenging them.
Pushing beyond what you think is possible.
And he applied that same mentality to his goal of breaking the world record for pull-ups. His first attempt was highly publicized.
Yeah, I remember that.
But he fell short.
He didn't get it.
It was a public failure.
Some might argue.
Right.
He set himself up.
For public embarrassment, is there a line between pushing limits and setting unrealistic goals?
That's a good point.
But for Goggins, it wasn't about achieving the record at any cost.
Okay.
It was about the process.
The process.
About testing his limits.
Okay.
And seeing what he was truly capable of.
So even in failure.
Even in failure.
There's a lesson to be learned.
Absolutely.
He analyzed his shortcomings. Adjusted his training. And went back at it. Even harder. And while he didn't ultimately break the record on his second attempt.
Right.
His hands literally gave out. He proved something. Even more important. Which is?
That resilience isn't about never failing.
Okay.
It's about getting back up. After you fall.
Okay.
And coming back stronger. It's about embracing the process of continual improvement.
So he teaches us to see failure not as an endpoint.
But as a stepping stone. Yeah.
It's part of the journey. And it's a journey. We all have the power to take.
Yeah.
And Goggins, he puts this into practice in a really unique way.
Right.
The Navy had this problem. They were struggling to recruit people of color.
Yeah, I can see that.
Particularly for the SEALs.
Right.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a tough gig. And maybe there wasn't a lot of representation.
Yeah, not a lot of representation.
To inspire people.
Right.
So Goggins, being one of the few Black SEALs himself, gets tasked with this mission to change that. Right.
Yeah.
So he's not just running ultra marathons.
Right.
Pushing his own limits. Now he's got to convince.
Other people.
To
join this crazy world.
Yeah, he had to go into communities.
Wow.
Where the military, let alone the SEALs, wasn't even on the radar.
So how do you even start to break down those barriers?
He gets creative. He combines his personal story. Those incredible feats of endurance. With a message of self-empowerment.
I'm picturing him showing up at high schools. Fresh off a 100-mile run. Like, hey, kids, want to be a SEAL?
Pretty much. He'd run an ultra marathon.
Wow.
Then talk to students about pushing limits, achieving the impossible.
So he was walking the walk.
He's walking the walk.
Exactly.
That's so much more powerful. Than just giving a lecture.
Than just talking about it.
He's living proof. That his philosophy works.
And he doesn't sugarcoat it.
No.
He's upfront about the challenges, the sacrifices involved.
But also...
in the role. Right. That sense of purpose.
Of
exceeding your own expectations.
Absolutely. His message resonated. Especially with those who felt underestimated or overlooked.
Right.
He showed them their potential.
That's the thing about Goggins.
Yeah.
He doesn't just talk about this stuff.
Right.
He embodies it.
He embodies it.
Even when he's facing his own setback.
Yes. Yep.
I mean, the guy tried out for Delta Force, right?
Delta Force, sure. That's like
the elite of the elite.
Of the elite.
Yeah. And this story is wild.
Okay, tell me.
He goes through this grueling selection process.
Okay.
Injures his ankle on a road march.
Oh, no.
But keeps going.
Keeps going.
He's pushing himself
to
the absolute limit.
The absolute limit.
Even when it seems impossible.
Did he make it?
He didn't get selected that time.
He didn't.
But even the Delta cadres were impressed.
Really?
They recognized his drive.
His refusal to quit.
So even in failure. He makes an impact.
He makes an impact.
It's not always about the outcome.
Right.
It's about
the
effort.
The effort.
The commitment you put in.
It's a commitment.
And Goggins takes this to heart.
He does.
He doesn't let ego.
He doesn't let ego get in the way.
He talks about this time he was in charge of training for his SEAL platoon.
Okay.
And he realized he was pushing them too hard, too fast.
Wait, Goggins pushing people too hard?
No, it's hard to imagine, right?
That's hard to imagine.
But he was so focused on his own high standards.
Okay.
He forgot about building camaraderie.
Okay.
Meeting his teammates where they were at.
So even Goggins has to learn about leadership. About bringing people along. On the journey.
It's a good reminder for all of us.
It is.
Sometimes the biggest challenge is not overcoming external obstacles,
but the limitations we put on ourselves.
And that's where Goggins' message really hits home.
It really does.
It's about recognizing that we have this untapped potential. This well of resilience. We haven't even begun to explore.
He's not saying everyone needs to be a Navy SEAL or run ultramarathons.
Right.
It's about applying these principles to our own lives. Whatever challenges
we're facing.
You've now got a taste.
Of
Goggins' world. But here's the real challenge. For you. What seemingly impossible goal? Are you capable of achieving? If you fully embrace what he embodies. What limiting belief are you ready to shatter?
What are you ready to shatter?
What will your legacy be?
What will your legacy be?
The answers are within you.
Go find them.